Hi, this is Nick Thompson, director of the first episode, pilot of Irving Renquist, called Alex.
David B. Grelk, creator, executive producer, writer.
And Michael P. Nowens, director of photography and executive producer.
So here we're in the Coulter's basement.
Yes, we are.
And I think the reflection there that we just saw was an accident. I think that was the cameraman moving, but it looks like whatever's moving in the basement. So I thought it was
all
a great.
my fault.
One of the coolest things about
this
the
cameraman, Mike.
Yeah, he's really terrible, as you'll see throughout the series. One of the things that was really cool about this set in particular is we got down there, and most of the coolest stuff on this was by accident. Like, for example, this. Yeah. Totally blown out by accident, and it looked good.
I think
At the beginning, he looks like a Close Encounters alien.
Yeah, exactly.
You live here.
I remember going around, Nick, you were doing this, and Brian going around the whole workroom and finding cool things. You should mess with this, and you should mess with this.
Right, yeah. Yeah, thank God the Coulters were generous enough to let us go in their basement and be into everything.
Turn their air conditioning off and not turn it back on.
I had to get back into their good graces because they turned their furnace off because it was extremely loud. We were shooting right next to the furnace, and then I forgot to turn it back on, and so they thought their furnace was broken and almost had a guy come out, and it was going to charge them $600.
We would have been halfway across town by the time they realized what was going on.
What are you talking about? We didn't touch that.
So this is a good time to talk about Irving Renquist in general. This series was a reaction. It was based on a novel I wrote that was a reaction to the Fletch books by Gregory MacDonald. I like the idea of a slightly unlikable and cocky lead character who stumbles into things kind of like Fletch did. And Mike had come to me saying, listen, we want to do a television series or a web series. And he pitched me an FBI agent drama. And I was all set to get on board with that, and he went back upstairs. And when he came back down, he's like, "You know what? I'm not really interested in doing that show."
Well, I was looking at him, and I was going as I'm pitching it. Dave was on board. I'm doing the bunny ear.
Air quotes.
Bunny ear. As Eddie Izzard, I believe, calls him. But anyway, I remember looking at Dave and just being like, he's so just not into this. I know he probably has something he wants to do, and I would hate to be like, hey, Dave, you want to write something you're totally not interested in?
I was totally on board. I would have totally done it. But when you came down and asked what would I do, it was, I'd written a pilot for an Irving Renquist TV series while you guys were shooting Leslie's Situation still. And it was a complete standalone pilot. It really has nothing to do with this at all. But it was something I'd wanted to turn into a TV series for a long time based on my enthusiasm for the Joss Whedon shows, Buffy and Angel and Firefly there. This was one of the last scenes we shot from this episode, wasn't it?
It was not the first weekend.
No.
Because I remember we were going back and I was like, okay, how are we going to introduce Dottie here? And I was like, we got to do something kind of cool. Irving had this awesome entrance at the beginning in the basement, and it was kind of tough to go back and reintroduce characters that we'd already been working with. But I think we did a good job.
I think this was shot at the same time as the diner sequence in episode 6.
Yeah. So I think we shot the scene. We shot the scene in 6 where Steve was directing on the other side of the restaurant, and then I remember you were setting up. Where you wanted to shoot.
I believe that you shot Steve stuff before we got there, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And so that's an example of the crazy schedule that this episode had. And a lot of the episodes were pretty, we had a routine of we'd shoot Thursday through Sunday for most of the episodes. Episode 1 was split in half because of Angela's schedule. We shot episode 3 in the middle of episode 1, and then we had little pickups throughout the series to shoot as well.
We've already been through 5 of our 7 possibilities, and thus far we've come across as a spot on the carpet that becomes excessively moist at 6 o'clock every day.
So Nick, I know you jumped on board with this project immediately when I pitched it to you, and I think it was because of our shared love for Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
We do have this shared Buffy love, which
I wouldn't mind sharing some Buffy love too.
I would not be above that. One of the things that right away, Mike and Dave came to me and were telling me about this idea. I love horror films. I love Buffy. I love Angel. I still haven't seen Firefly, but
you really ought to. It's very good.
I have intentions. It's coming out on Blu-ray soon. So anyway, I really like the idea of doing, first of all, a TV series or a web series, as we talked about, but I was really intrigued by the content that we were addressing in that. We were going to do this ghost story, but it was going to be funny. It was going to be character-driven. And it wasn't going to be this huge, elaborate special effects anything. It was really going to be kind of down and dirty, gritty filmmaking with cool characters to work with. And Brian, in that first scene you saw there a little while ago, he was in character immediately. It was really incredible kind of to watch him work. And I think anyone would agree that there's a little bit of Brian Wool and Irving Renquist and vice versa. Yeah. But it was definitely cool to see him dive in and go the whole way with it, right off the bat too. I mean, a lot of times you catch a pilot and you're kind of like, I don't see where it's going. It's not till a couple episodes in you really see what the characters are. And though they progress throughout the series, I really think they hit it right on the head right away.
When the big thing I wanted to do with this was create one story throughout the entire thing, because when Mike was saying, well, we want to do an 8-episode, it was then an 8-episode series, I said, well, I don't want any real Monster of the Week episodes is what they were referred to as on Buffy. I want to make sure that we're telling one story over the course of this, because a ghost investigation would not be and immediately they'd walk up and see the ghost and take care of the ghost and then move on. And one of the things we've gotten praised for on our message boards is that we actually deal with this in a semi-professional ghost hunter fashion. This was also shot far later than the
was it?
2 shots ago. Yeah, the stuff with Julia was shot weeks before the stuff with Michelle.
Actually, this wasn't supposed to go here either.
It wasn't. It was supposed to be in the second half of the episode. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we ended up moving it around. I don't remember why.
Brian's shirt.
Oh, it was Brian's shirt, costume issue.
Oh, gotta love the costume issues.
Yeah.
When this character, Sandra Hedges, was initially male in the script, it was going to be a very cocky Irving Renquist-esque rival that would just be a complete water and oil thing. And
he was still named Sandra Hedges, too.
Well, Michelle was trying to tell us that she could have played Samson Hedges, and and she had a very odd rationale that involved being a lesbian. And I pointed out that being a lesbian does not make you a man.
I gotta find
That's not how it works.
So
Yeah, that doesn't add up.
It was very odd.
She's going to be continually criticized for her one slip.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you make one mistake, and then
That's
we're
all over.
we're talking through Lonnie's introduction, and Nick, you had a lot of input on the creation of this set and the introduction of this character.
Right.
Carry throughout the whole.
Exactly. One of the coolest things, I don't know if anyone's picked up on it, we always start tight, a lot of times on the mouth when we're introducing regular characters. And I thought that was just because every character you're very intimate with. And I firmly believe that where you put the camera does tell you a lot about the character. Like certain characters you will see close-ups, and other characters you won't. And it depends on how well you know them and how well you get to know them. But definitely one of the things that was so attractive for the project was I was always talking to Dave and even Mike and saying, okay, well, can we do this? And, it's yours. You set the tone for the series. You set, the stylistic decisions and all of that right in the pilot. And it was something that was really cool to kind of take and go with because there was so much room for opportunity to just try different things. And I know there were quite a few times we tried different things.
Yeah.
Well, that leads me to a question: is you set the look of this series. You and Mike determined it here in episode 1, and then how was it for you to watch the rest of the series and see this look evolve and get carried on?
I definitely the one thing that the fact that it ties together, first of all, in story is great. Like we talked about a minute ago. The tone really does evolve, and it doesn't change, but it doesn't stay the same. It's really hard to understand, but watching the whole thing, Hotel Indigo was when we saw the first 6, right? Or was that the first three? Okay. That was really interesting for me because I hadn't seen any other episodes but the first one that I had directed, and it was really cool to kind of see it live on and know, hey, I was a big part of that. Yeah, and one of the other cool things was too is that all the directors and producers all had the opportunity to talk with one another. So it wasn't someone brought in for episode 2 that I had never met or hadn't known or anything, or 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8 for that matter. We had all kind of been around to know what was going on, which was helpful.
And when we started this whole thing, we wanted to make it a communal effort. We would read through big sections of the series rather than treat it as individual episodes and you come in for your episode and you're done. We wanted to get everybody's input on the whole thing from the beginning, because that would put together a much more cohesive series. And I think I think you really hit it, that the tone evolves, because it does start out as this light, quirky show, and once the dramatic and the sinister undertones start coming up, it's a slow progression as they come to the forefront until episode 8, which is really episode 7 and 8, which are the climax of this supernatural story. And then towards the end of 9, we do get back to a little more of the goofy stuff, but we're still able to have that throughout the series, which is something I'm very proud of, because we can fluctuate from something that's really frightening or mean or dramatic and then just go immediately into something that's very goofy at the same time.
One of the things that I just wanted to bring up, it's a little off what we're talking about, but the most interesting thing to me, and I've really picked this up as a filmmaker the last couple years, is it's so easy coming into a show like this, and if you take a look at Buffy, for example, same thing. It's a whole bunch of characters meeting each other. It's very rare that you come into a show and the characters already all know each other, and you enter their life at a point where you don't have this new relationship to carry the drama or anything like that. And obviously you have Irving Renquist meeting Dottie, but you've got this relationship here that's coming to an end, and this is one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah, talk about how you shot this scene here, Nick.
I believe we're in the back of a car. It was scary.
And Brian had the hardest time keeping up.
And that is real sweat and huffing and puffing.
It's not fake.
I mean,
and the sad thing is we shot this like 8 or 9 times, if I remember correctly. A lot of shots.
Yeah, a lot of them.
This was scary. Shooting in the cemetery.
It's in downtown Palatine, and we called for permission, and the restrictions and how we would get permission was just far more effort than we were willing to put up at that point, considering we were shooting that the next day. Mm-hmm. So we did it guerrilla style. It was good.
It was good. The cool thing about this cemetery too is it looks like it's been around, and probably has been around for hundreds of years, but the trees and everything are so old, and they really add to the atmosphere. It was kind of like almost like we may as well have built it, may as well have just done this even if we could have built it, because we wouldn't have been able to duplicate that tree that Irving's sitting under.
And that is a really interesting looking tree. I love we see the lightning bugs in the background. I think that's a really cool. It adds to because we are shooting a little bit day for night here, but we're shooting dusk for night.
Right.
And so the lightning bugs being out really hits that night home a little bit more, and I think it really sells it a lot here.
It's that whole kind of shooting this guerrilla style, kind of combined with the shooting at twilight, which is we got to get done in this much time, otherwise we have no light.
Because we didn't use any light on this at all. This was all Mike adjusting the camera for it. It was really cool. Really cool experience.
A crazy time crunch, I remember, for this. But the great thing is, I believe you were able to rehearse with them because we were prepping to go.
That is very true, and we were. And I remember we parked like 3 blocks away too. And we were just talking the whole way there. And
I like Dottie as a character because I called her the slut next door in one of our other commentaries. But what's interesting to me about Dottie is she does have that sluttiness to her, but it's more of she's got the same kind of drive that Irving does. He wants to get what he wants, and Dottie knows what she wants immediately when she sees Irving.
Wasn't this the first thing we shot, or was this the first day or second day?
I think this was the first day.
I thought so, because I remember watching this, and we took a while rehearsing it, but I believe that we shot it like 2 or 3 takes each because they nailed it.
Well, this was also one of the only shots we did 2 cameras on.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we did.
I forgot about that.
Because you and I were shooting this scene.
Mm-hmm.
And the bugs were everywhere because we had that giant photo light.
Steve shot one of the cameras. He was one of the other camera operators. You and Steve Minarzek. I was
you were behind the monitors, yeah.
Have you actually?
And you made a big cut in this scene.
Yes, which you'll be able to check out on the DVD.
My Elliot Ness thing, right?
Yeah.
That's
there was a big cut that we made, mostly for time, because the episode was nearing 40 minutes, which was just
too much.
Very long.
For anyone else that it's probably been touched on in previous commentaries or other commentaries, but this episode 1 was originally going to be 2 episodes, and I believe we were shooting it when we decided to go. I remember thinking, I was like, that nothing happens in the first episode to hook people.
It was your idea to combine it, and yeah, you called me up and said, listen, this is because it ended. I forgot what the original ending of the episode was, but you're right. Nothing happened other than them meeting each other.
Right.
And you pitched it to me that, well, we need to meet the ghost in this.
And that's your cliffhanger.
Yeah.
That ends up being the cliffhanger.
And so when we combined it, we actually did rearrange a few of the scenes, I think, to make it integrate a little bit more. But here's another walk-in smoke that's even better for Brian. But this was the original ending,
right when she walks in here.
Her saying, talking to Alex here. And
I loved shooting in this room. It was so, like, Mike, this was your house, right?
Yeah.
This was the room is so creepy, especially with the atmosphere that we're creating at that point. And I mean, it was just really,
Boy, that's our first special effect in the series.
Vintage little girl.
We have a special effect in episode 1.
So that right there was the original ending.
Yeah.
And it would have worked, but I feel like in a pilot, you can definitely go longer. A lot of times they're, twice as long as normal episodes to begin with. So it was definitely a decision.
Well, I think doing that definitely improved the entire thing. I mean, and we had a lot of episode changes. Like episode 8 was split into 8 and 9, and there were a bunch of little things like that ultimately worked very much for the production. And really, this was
day one. I was just thinking that, yeah.
Because I have an outtake of you telling them how great they are, and Brian just offering to direct
the rest
all
of the
episodes.
series. Yeah, I remember that.
And we had to point out that Brian didn't actually have the producerial.
And see, I had signed a contract with a signing bonus and everything else, and they just took it away from me. With Brian, I mean, we were tempted to take this thing off on our own and run with it.
And I mean, the show is already called Irving Renquist Ghost Hunter, so I don't know what more Brian wanted from it. But from this moment, we were seeing. Is that Mark sitting on the stairs over there? That red shirt.
As we watch these commentaries, I've noticed so many.
We're picking up a lot of things. Well, because we've seen this mostly on a computer screen.
Right. That's one of the challenges actually. Like is editing on a computer screen, then blowing it up on what a 37-inch TV we're watching right now.
And it's HD too.
Yeah.
So you're seeing
everything's clearer.
Yeah.
But what I was saying before I realized that Mark was sitting in the corner is that, we saw it from immediately with these two. We saw the backstory. We saw their friendship. And it clicked immediately. Mm-hmm. And that's a testament to both of the actors. They knew the characters right away. This is my guest room.
Right. And they commanded attention to... Again, same thing with everything. Like when you go and you shoot a scene, especially I had never worked with. I'd worked with the crew before, and I think Mark in a smaller capacity, Mark Musinski. But other than that, I hadn't worked with Brian Wool before anything. And we went on there, and I was really impressed with how they just had camera screen presence and commanded attention instantly.
All right. Well, hang on. Play that back.
And this is Lonnie being more in his Q capacity than he wound up being in the rest of the series. Lonnie was envisioned as Irving's Q.
Will be very
Q
conspicuous,
from
the two of
the
us
James
involved.
Bond series.
Don't you want to?
Maybe it's talking.
This was raining, right?
Yep.
This
Recreate everything from
was.
Okay, I'll go take a nap.
Do they drive? Is this is where they drive around? This was fun. Do you remember those kitties driving around behind us for a very long time? And I have a short fuse with idiots, and I was one time of them flashing their brights out from ending that problem.
Well,
But
because we had a set car following to do
The prop
flashing,
car,
and they were like,
right.
"Oh, cool, we're gonna join in and do this," and it was like,
and it's like, I'm sorry guys, we're not shooting urban legend here. Let's get
Oh,
out of
and
here.
here's my uncle Richard Fredrickson is Marcus Fulgham, which is my George Norrie Art Bell Coast to Coast AM homage here. And I like that Julia's listening
I feel like
to
that shot right there is yeah. See, where were they when we were shooting this? I don't.
I think we actually got this shot after they.
Okay, because I remember they were like following us around. But anyway, I love this shot because it's like the radio's talking and it's like the point of view from the radio.
Yeah.
I think it's cool. Good job.
I think actually I was the driver. I was driving. I don't think I was shooting.
I think we just referenced the Peppercorn Palace thing there.
Oh, did
That was something I added into the script because we recorded that radio stuff much later, and we had a little extra time, so I had him reference Jason Mazursky and the Peppercorn Palace conspiracy.
Just looking around. Private property. Close that.
Now this was shot nowhere near the cemetery.
Nope.
Nowhere near the cemetery.
I'm
And nowhere near
investigating an
nighttime
important
either.
case.
If I remember
This is not a
correctly.
playground for
Luckily, we had the
physical
shade.
enthusiasts.
This was a shot I
People
think
are
just
buried
further
in there.
down
I'll be
on the
finished
street.
in a minute.
Where,
Get out of here
where
now.
we
I'm
shot.
calling the police.
Yeah, I believe.
Dottie's house.
Right, and over the course
It's
of
people
the
like you that
the
hold
cemetery
back
scenes, I
parasite
think we're in like 3 or 4 different locations.
Yep.
And the cemetery's not in the series all that much. I
Right.
think we only go back
your
there
right.
once.
It's also my right.
I mean, the key was we
Keep you away
couldn't
from my
shoot
daughter.
in the cemetery it's supposed to be, which
Look,
is
I've been through
Cuba
a long
Road's
time,
White
Irving.
Cemetery,
I got a lot
which
of
is
neighbors.
considered the
One
most
thing we all have in
haunted
common is we hate when
cemetery
kids come
in the
down here looking for
Chicagoland
ghosts
suburbs
on
other
Cuba
than
Road.
Bachelor's Grove.
I'm sorry,
And
but
so we,
you are Irving.
having Cuba Township not being thrilled with
Suddenly being so
anything
polite.
relating to their cemetery, we couldn't go anywhere near it.
Don't be
So we
sorry,
shot
just
all
leave.
these things in Palatine.
Leave
We
us
never
all
go
alone.
near Cuba Road in the entire series.
Yeah.
It all takes place on Cuba Road, but we don't go anywhere near it.
I was asked to leave by an irate local.
Asked. Well,
It's
considering
interesting
you've been
too
dragged
because
And arrested.
Dottie's father there
Asked to leave
introduced,
isn't
and
that bad.
it appears at first
We
that
get what we want, though.
you're probably not going to
He
see
didn't
very
confiscate the
much of
recorder,
him.
did he?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like,
I
you know,
hope
I
you
remember
left
when
the
I
cemetery
first read it,
report.
I hadn't read the rest of the series, and Dave was actually still writing
you
it
know
when
how
I
glad I
got the
am that
first
you're my
2
partner?
scripts before we combined it into one. And
We might have to bite the bullet.
I
on this
remember
one.
thinking in the
That's
back of my
too
head,
bad.
I was like, this guy's got to go.
really
I'm like, this is like the most
Well, they should
pointless
move to a
scene, and it doesn't
less
work.
theoretically haunted town.
But it's really
That's
kind of an
wonderful.
interesting introduction, the fact that
rubbing off on
it
me.
feels like that, but it's not.
So what do you think?
It's a nice misleading.
Maybe this place is a stage door.
moment where you meet a character you
It's
think
gotta
is
be
gonna
in a small
totally
point in the road,
pointless,
not the whole thing.
or just to serve one
look at
thing,
who
which is
supports
to
the stage door
be
theory.
the thing that's going to
Not
keep
called
Dottie
stage door.
and Irving apart for a little
It's
bit.
called
and that's
Irving's
it.
Ideas on the Acid.
Hey, does anyone else? Brian
Hey,
will
I
actually
thought you were
believe in
gonna
the
get me
stage
on
door
haunted
theory.
back roads someday.
I don't know. That's a good question.
It's
remember-
interesting because him talking about it in this scene, it's just
So
like,
what do we
dude,
do?
you're like trying to sell me a car or
When-
something.
When he and I were talking about
Find a
this,
stage
I
door?
think it was the scene in the garage, because that was one of the first scenes we filmed, where they actually the next scene coming up, I think, where he tells Lonnie,
With Lonnie, right.
about the stage door. Oh, this is a long episode. I forgot. Where it's he was really into that idea when we were talking about it, and so I think he started to believe it himself, and that's one of the reasons why his passionate talking about this stage door theory, which was my theory at the time, is so strong. And I think he really got into that.
There was
definitely.
definite passion behind it. Yeah. This is, first of
That's
all,
night for
that
day.
is It's gorgeous, is what it is.
I'm looking
But
snuck back in after my dad left.
I like this outside stuff.
Yeah.
To me, one of the greatest challenges is shooting outside in the middle of what is like 1 o'clock in the afternoon when we shot this. It just turned out so well.
And you're shooting in the sun usually. Is
Exactly.
typically
Nothing's
most-
blown out. You have a really high contrast ratio, which is
When you gonna take
good
my
in essence with a lot of what you see throughout the series, but it works with the scene.
So I can get my recorder.
And
Because we didn't
you
even
kind of
bounce. I don't think we even bounced because of the hat.
Yeah, that hat really helped a lot.
right.
Because typically, I mean, that's like, that hat would be completely, death to any light on her face. And so we would have to bounce it. But I don't think we even did. I think actually the mulch on the ground that was right below her, I think actually that did a good
And
job.
even this, I mean, it looks covered, but it wasn't that covered. We really, I mean,
We had a nice tree
Our crew
there.
did which is where we set up the picnic. But
This
Although
is
the picnic's just fries.
this is another one of my yeah. This is another one of the location bouncing. This is supposed to be Dottie's backyard, and this is far away from that. She was just in the playground that's supposedly in her backyard, which is not the playground we ever see again in the series. So it's great because we show so little of these things that we're able to bounce around like that.
right.
And I really like the way they play here. We see a lot of
Or I might be in
relationship between all the characters in this episode, and I think that's really a testament
your
to the way
quarterback?
you worked with the cast, because it doesn't feel like developing stuff. It's like they have already hit their stride together, which
Right.
is really cool.
Well, that's part of what I was trying to get across with the writing earlier, is that we're entering, these characters in relationships, and then you've got Irving and Dottie who meet, but they're so comfortable in their relationships based on everything else that's already been established about them through the writing, through other relationships, that it was really cool to see them go in and they're established as a character and as a person, that meshing together. It's not awkward, it's not uncomfortable, it's not forced.
That's where the Hedges scene went, was just before this.
Yeah.
Because then after he said goodbye to Hedges, he spun around and Julia was standing there pissed off at him. That's actually a font, the Alex writing. That's a font
Is
I
it,
have.
is it called Alex?
Yes,
I figured.
I blurred it so it wasn't as fonty, but it is a font.
I snapped this picture.
This is inside.
That's ectoplasm.
Spots inside the house. Somewhere
Okay.
What that's supposed to be there.
and outside.
I went a little crazy. I added a lens flare to the ectoplasm, but
How did they ever make anything before Photoshop?
yeah, it's impossible, I think.
Yeah.
There's a lot of commercial breaks in this episode.
Well, that's because it's a pilot. We had to get lots of sponsorship for it.
By the security.
And this, I think, when
All of
Brian
the investors.
read the script, he pinpointed this as his favorite scene.
I was just gonna say this is my favorite scene in this episode. Also, I think it's one of the not longer in terms of time, but like the most time we spend with two characters here, and you really get to see not just their working relationship, but their friendship. Peek through here and there.
When there was
too.
something strange about this scene, I don't think it was in the script until just before we shot the episode. Because I remember the original ending was look at our ghost, and we saw the pictures of the ghost. And it may have been you who brought this up, that we should deal with these ideas, because this is a pilot, so we need to...
You don't want to, same with the whole, let's put it together. You want to give them enough, but you want to give them too much.
And so, this shows Irving's drive. It's not just about Dottie at this point. He's interested in this case too, and the rest of the episode, it could have easily been interpreted that he's only on board because of this girl.
Not just some picture.
And Irving's never seen a ghost,
You and I both
No.
know
which
isn't
is
an error in the
funny.
camera or a
Just
problem
simply
with
put.
developing or a
He's
goddamn
got theories,
camera
he's
strap.
got plans, he's got jobs, he's got a career, and he's like a quarterback who's never thrown the ball.
Well, Irving got into ghost hunting because of Sandra Hedges. He wanted to
Right.
impress this girl he liked, and so he got into ghost hunting. and then kind of abandoned her when they were both into it. So he's that guy. Yeah, his performance here, he really nailed this scene.
Backstage.
See, right there,
Yeah.
you're like, these two have probably been friends forever because he knew exactly where he was going with that. And I just thought it added a bit of realism, and it shows, we're progressing a story here, but these relationships exist, and that was one of the big reasons I was really happy to do the pilot, is because it wasn't going to be, how are we going to, introduce these characters to each other and make it not like we did it last scene. That wasn't the case with anything. It was...
And he talks about going through the door here. And I think we put that in specifically to foreshadow the end of the series, where he does
that.
go through
Wasn't
the
that made on set, that adjustment? Or was that...
No, it was very close to the shooting, but it was it was in the script, I know.
The ability to hop between worlds.
Because I think that ending was added later in the process, too. We thought, well, let's cliffhang the hell out of this and just lose the main character somewhere.
Right.
And I love this transition from this intense moment here to that.
This is Dave. This is your garage.
That's my garage.
I've never seen anything like so ready to be filmed in. I mean, look at this. Look at this shot right here.
Well, we spent 2 days and converted that to a set that was there for 2.5 months that summer.
Right. It was a lot of fun. In closing, I mean, I hope everyone enjoyed the episode, obviously, and obviously you're probably watching this first before all the other ones, unless you watch the whole series and then with the commentary. Anyway, it was really cool to work with everyone, and definitely a challenge to start a show, something I'd never done before, but was excited to do. And should we ever bring Irving back? I know there's been talk of movies and season 2. I would definitely want to be involved in that process.
It's all right to smile.